Hi. So in May of this year, or May of 2012, I'm sorry, staff was directed by the Board of Directors to report on unattended transfer stations. They were getting a lot of complaints about some of the problems with the unattended transfer stations. A lot of, it was just really an ongoing maintenance nightmare. So the board asked staff to report on the status of these transfer stations. So there's, in the regional district, there are 9 unattended transfer stations. And we reported out to the board as to what the issues were. And as we worked through this, doing our research, we found a lot of quite astonishing things out about these stations. In the Christina Lake area, there are 2 unattended transfer stations. There's Texas Point and McCrae Creek, and they're on the East Lake road right away. So we started looking into doing our due diligence and looking into these transfer stations. What we found is, to everybody's amazement, is that we actually had no permits to be on any of these 9 unattended transfer stations. They were all on Crown right-of-way. To occupy a Crown right-of-way for any purpose, you have to have a permit for works within a right-of-way. So we found that we had no legal permission to be on any of these. We looked into it further. So our options, so we were developing options, and we looked at what we would have to do to obtain legal permission to keep these sites in the places that they were. And we found that there were a lot of obstacles in terms of obtaining legal permission to keep these unattended sites. Primarily, works within a right-of-way. There are a lot of different criteria, and they don't really anticipate something like this. Generally speaking, you get a permit to put a sewer or a water pipe in a right-of-way, not necessarily a garbage bin area. I don't know how well you can see this, but I guess anybody that's used these sites knows this shows a couple of microwaves, a tire, a hide-a-bed, a couple of hot water tanks. This is actually a full gasoline, a full tank of old gasoline. So this was a really common occurrence. We went through every one of our sites and found just absolute nightmares in terms of public and staff health and safety. We found things like propane tanks thrown into the bottom of the tank with car batteries thrown on top, or into the bins with car batteries thrown on top of them. And this was ongoing. And these sites are cleaned up on average 2, sometimes 3 times a week, and it was just this ongoing maintenance issue. So we looked at different options. One of the options was to retain the site. So we looked at the legal permission. We realized we didn't even have, what our lawyers told us is that if you do not have a legal standing in a site, or you have legal permission to be on a site, you can't actually enforce any of your bylaws. It would be like me going out on the road and start giving out speeding tickets. I've got nothing, right? So in effect, we're occupying, or illegal trespass is actually the term that the lawyers used. So we reported out to the board. We looked at a bunch of different options and tried to come up with something that would work. And we also looked into the standards. There's new regulatory standards for these sites. And to build a transfer station, you have to have buffer zones, you have to have fencing, all things that we couldn't really do within these right-of-ways. So our options were extremely limited in terms of what to do with these things. So when the board asked us to make recommendations, we had to confess that we didn't have very many positive ideas. The stations, the start of it was, well, if you're gonna determine what stations should stay and what stations should go, you should have a board policy on this thing. And so the board policy, they adopted a policy that says we really want people to use staffed facilities, because without staffing you can't control any of this. So the board established a policy that creates a preference for staffed facilities, and that every person within the district should be within a 30-minute drive of a staffed facility. So that was the overarching policy. So we applied that to the existing system, and it turns out that there's a number of what we would call extraneous transfer stations that are closer than 30-minute drive. to the nearest staff facility. Both Texas Creek and Texas Point and McCrae Creek are inside 30-minute drive to the Christina Lake Transfer Station. So we recommended that those sites that, after weighing a number of options, including looking at retaining the sites and building them properly, that option, by the way, would have involved or required us to buy probably a couple of acres of land, to put some fencing up, and if we were going to go that route, these stations, what everybody across the province is doing, because we did some research on that, and what is everybody doing with these stations, what they're saying now, pretty much everybody is saying they're all nightmares. What we do with ours is we fence it, we've got a guy there Wednesday afternoon. That's when you can go, and that's the only time it's open. We looked at that option, and that really wasn't viable in most cases. And the question would have been, if you're going to spend anywhere from, on the low side, to $200,000, if we could even find a place to put it on East Lake, how can you justify spending that much money when you've got a staffed, full-service transfer station 15 minutes down the road?
I'm going to jump in a little bit, Alan, because what people need to understand is the reason they were there was for the boat access people to begin with. So what it boils down to is that everyone else in the area was paying to either take their garbage or have it picked up. The boat access people were supplied with a bin, which was being used by numerous other people, not just the boat access people. So I get down to the nitty-gritty here. I was trying to be polite. So the bottom line here is they're going to be gone. Right now, currently, Ron is working with the boat access people to figure out what might work for them on arranging days that he can pick up, that they can bring over, and he will meet them and pick up, and they will then pay him to transfer. Otherwise, their responsibility will be the same as yours, to either take their garbage to the transfer station at Christina Lake or have it picked up. That's the simplicity of it. It would have cost us a lot of money to go down a road in a different direction, and it is a user-pay system. So,
when will they be gone?
pardon?
When will they be gone? Are they gone now?
When will they be gone?
On the 14th, we are taking a report forward to the Environmental Services Committee recommending approval of a communications plan and a May 1st closure. I guess the best way to answer this is in May 1st they'll be gone, and the seasonal one won't show up at all this year. It just disappears. One of the, we're trying to make sure that the service levels are reasonable and adequate. And one of the things that we heard from the community is that the transfer station closed too early on Sunday. It was a 3 o'clock closure on Sunday. And if you were going to try to, like if you're leaving, you don't have time to get there. So what the board has directed staff to do is to open the transfer station until 7 p.m. on Sunday evenings. So everybody's got a chance to get their stuff down to the transfer station. So it's a shift. It's a shift of service that will cost a little extra money, but there will be some money savings. And I really wanted to de-emphasize the financial aspect of it. These things were environmental and safety nightmares, and it was just a matter of time before we started a fire or had somebody terribly hurt or worse. So that's the unattended transfer stations. And any questions on that? Sure.
Yeah, Christina Lake Transfer Station. Any appliance that's got a plug on it, TV set, tea kettle, whatever, the residents of Christina Lake have to take the Grand Porch there by the Boulder Depot, which sounds like a huge carbon footprint. Why do we not have that service at our Christina Lake Regional Transfer Station?
Because that's not a regional district service.
Or
that's
Christina Lake.
It's not a regional district service. That's a category of products that's now managed by a private industry under provincial regulation. So the province regulated a whole bunch of products. That industry would manage them, and once industry starts managing it, we stop managing it.
I know, you got me a little confused.
Well, you
I
can't
think
take
it's
your
just sort of
bottles
silly.
there either, right? You can't take your returnable bottles to the.
Yeah, same thing.
No, but I can take those bottles and put them at the end of the blue bin where it says glass, but I can't take a TV set and drop it down there, or a tea kettle or a coffee pot. It has to be driven all the way to Grand Forks
Yeah.
Ball Depot, and I think that part should be changed.
What the expectation is that, you know, I don't know about you, but when I live in Rossland, and sometimes I have to shop for a few things in Trail, and I don't go down to Trail and buy a pair of socks, drive back home to Rossland, put them in my drawer, and drive back down to Trail, and then go and buy a pair of shoelaces. You know, the point is you're making regular trips into
No,
Grand
I'm
Forks
not
anyways.
making regular trips, but I mean, that's
You know, so you
myself
just
personally.
So you just combine it with the regular trip, and it should be quite easy to do that. But that's a bunch of programs are going under these industry stewardship plans, and it's up to industry to manage them. And we don't really have much to say about that.
Grace, is there a plan to notify all boat access people?
Oh, they know. I had a conversation last year with their president. She knew this is coming down the road. I've had quite numerous conversations with her. Ron has had numerous conversations with her. She's putting all of the information together so that they can make some decisions and it'll be put out to them.
Grace, as you know, we are boat access people. Not everybody, in fact, a very small percentage of the boat access priority owners belong to the organization you're talking about.
But your president.
No, what I'm saying is, if she emails all of her members, she's emailing 25 to 30 members. There's 160 something boat access people that need to know. Therefore, I say the regional district needs to send out.
And once this is all settled and gone through, they will be notified. You bet. And part of that will be through Rody Kruger's list also, because he has a very extensive list as well.
The only way to catch them is through the RDKB. Sorry.
Now, on the 14th, we are presenting this communications plan, and it's pretty extensive, and it includes mail outs, it includes emails, it includes postings on our website. If you have email lists, Peter, I would really appreciate that you send them to us, or contacts, because then we will send that stuff out, but we're going to use our traditional methods as well. We think that, well, you're shaking your head, how would you do it?
No, the only way is to mail it, and you have the addresses. You've
Yeah.
done mail outs before.
Yes,
That's the only way you're going to catch everybody.
well, that's part of the communications plan.
But definitely, Sue Harrigan is who you're talking about, the president of the Boat Access Society.
Yeah.
She has maximum 30 members.
Okay.
Okay, we are one of them. So, but I have heard nothing from.
Not yet, no.
So,
No, well, May 1st is a few months off, and you know, one of the things that we wanted to do is make sure that we were timely with this. And again, I didn't want to release a whole lot of information until it was approved by the board. Remember, again, this goes back to CEO McLean's comments that individual directors have a lot of influence, but they don't have a lot of authority. Ultimately, this was a board decision. Regional Solid Waste Management is a board the board oversees that ultimately, and they made the decision. And really, you know, John showed you, you know, the population of the district at about 31,000 people. I would say that this puts the service levels in line with about 28,000 people in the district who all have to go a few minutes to a disposal site. So, and part of this communications plan is to give everybody Ron's contact information so that he can organize something. If people say it's just too inconvenient, they can pay to have their garbage bags picked up, again, like everybody else in the district. Nobody gets garbage collection for free. Okay.
The transfer stations that are closing are
Craig Creek, Texas Point, Bridesville, Westbridge, Jewel Lake.
okay. So the ones that are staying.
Mount Baldy, Sidley Mountain, Idabel Lake, and Christian Mountain.
I guess those ones are not on ground land, or
They are for the time being, but actually we actually have legal authority to be on
a couple of those places, and one of them's on private land. And what the board has directed us to do is create specified service areas for the ones that are staying,
Right.
so that they can be paid for by the people that use them, and not by the general taxpayer. So that's our direction.
Thank you.